All right, here we are. Chapter 17. Goosebumps Slappyworld, Revenge of the Invisible Boy. Dinner at Eduardo's house was weird. Veronica is only 6, and she's a terror. She's seriously wild. I mean, she screeches like a hyena and laughs all the time and thinks it's really funny to sneak up on you and shove you in the belly as hard as she can. I was lucky to be invisible. Veronica couldn't shove me or push me or beat me up. Their cousin Natalie, who was staying with them, is probably 18 or 19. She is tall with green eyes and long black hair. She walks in slow motion, her hair swaying like a horse's tail behind her. She never took her eyes off her phone. Seriously, she never looked up from her phone screen. She held the phone in one hand, texted all through dinner, and didn't say 2 words to Eduardo or Veronica. Eduardo was the only one who knew I was sitting at the dinner table with them. I sat next to him, and he kept slipping me food when no one was watching. Natalie had brought home a big bag of McDonald's, and Eduardo kept handing me chicken nuggets and fries under the table. "Why didn't you give me a Happy Meal?" Veronica demanded in her loud, whiny voice. "Why didn't I get a toy?" "You have enough toys," Natalie told her. She just kept typing with one thumb as she ate her quarter pounder. "Those toys are boring anyway," Eduardo told his sister. She threw a chicken nugget across the table, and it bounced off his forehead. "They are not." Natalie went into the kitchen to get more ketchup. I decided to have a little fun with Veronica. I crept up behind her. I pulled 2 chicken nuggets from her pack. I raised them high and made them dance in the air in front of her. She gasped and made a grab for them. I swung them out of her reach. "Eduardo, look!" she cried. "Those nuggets!" I dropped them back onto the table. "What's wrong with the nuggets?" Eduardo asked, acting innocent. They jumped into the air," his sister stammered. "Didn't you see them?" "Chicken nuggets don't fly," Eduardo said. But, Veronica sputtered. She picked one up and examined it closely. "Stop making stuff up," Eduardo said. "It isn't funny." She shoved the chicken nuggets away. "Think I'll just eat the fries." Eduardo's room is small. His wall is covered with baseball posters, and the whole space is cluttered with piles of sports cards and framed photos of Mets players and sports magazines. He reads. 2 shelves are jammed with tiny little silver trophies he won for basketball and Little League baseball. Twin beds were squeezed into one end of the room. The beds had New York Mets, orange and blue quilts over them. "Take that one," Eduardo said, pointing to the bed next to the window. "What a crummy day," I moaned. "I am so stressed out. I don't know if I can fall asleep." "Count invisible sheep," Eduardo said. I had to laugh. He almost never made jokes. I knew he was trying to cheer me up. "You'll probably be back to normal in the morning," he said. "You think?" I wasn't so sure. I climbed into bed and stretched out on my back. The bed was soft and comfortable. I couldn't stop yawning. Maybe I could fall asleep. I tugged the quilt up to my chin and shut my eyes. And just as I was drifting off, Eduardo's cousin, Natalie, burst into the room. Light from the hallway washed in through the open door. "Just wanted to say goodnight," Natalie said. She stopped and stared at my bed. She turned to Eduardo. "Hey, why did you mess up the other bed? I'm not making 2 beds." Eduardo raised his head from his pillow. He pretended to be half asleep. "I didn't do it. The dog did it." Natalie rolled her eyes. Yeah, sure. Did you forget you don't have a dog? Eduardo thought for a minute. We don't? No, Natalie said, you don't. So why did you mess up the other bed? I didn't do it, he told her. The invisible boy did it. She sighed. Weirdo. She spun away, closing the door behind her. Eduardo turned to me. He shrugged. I told her the truth. Who would believe the truth? I replied. During the night, I had a very bold dream. I was on stage in a huge theater doing a magic act. I wore Mystical Marvin's red cape, and sometimes in the dream, I had his crinkly blonde hair. I was me, and I was Mystical Marvin at the same time. I did the levitating trick, and the crowd went wild. Then I did a crazy trick you can only do in the dream. I rode a tiger across the stage, and then I made the tiger vanish into thin air. The audience rose to their feet and gave me a standing ovation. I had the biggest smile on my face, and it was my face. Yes, I had a face in the dream. I had eyes and a nose and hands and arms. I was me. I was back to normal. And I took a deep bow as the audience continued to stand and cheer. I wanted to cheer too, because I wasn't invisible anymore. I could see myself, and so could everyone else. I woke up with the dream still in my head. I blinked. I could still hear the applause. I sat straight up, wide awake now. I gazed around Eduardo's room, and a smile spread over my face. For real, I'm back. I'm me. I'm finally back. I'm back. I glanced down at my hands, and I let out a groan. Ugh. My smile drooped. I shoved the quilt down and looked for my feet. No. I pounded my invisible chest with both fists. I wasn't back in real life. I was only back in the dream. I sank onto the pillow. Maybe I'll never come back, I thought. What am I going to do? Chapter 18. Natalie had to take Veronica to her kindergarten class early, so Eduardo and I were alone in the kitchen for breakfast. He poured us big bowls of Frosted Flakes, and we sat down across from each other, crunching away. Why are you grinning? I asked him. It looks funny, he said. Your spoon looks like it's floating by itself in midair, and then the suddenly disappears somewhere like into a hole. The hole is my mouth, I said. I don't think that's too funny. That formula should have worn off by now, Eduardo said. I had an idea last night. I set down my spoon. An idea? After school, he said. Let's go to the magic store, abracadabra and stuff. The place where we buy all our props and tricks. What will we do there? I asked. That guy Jerome knows all about magic, Eduardo said. Maybe he knows about disappearing tricks. Maybe he'll know about an antidote. I thought about it. It was a long shot, but I was desperate. Okay, I said, good idea, Eduardo. Let's do it. I raised the glass and I took a long drink of orange juice. Eduardo laughed. Sorry, he said, but it just looks so funny. I didn't feel like going to school, but I didn't want to hang around by myself until it was time to go to abracadabra and stuff. I took my seat in the back row. I left my backpack in my locker. I knew a floating backpack would make everyone upset. I glimpsed Ari in his seat on the other side of the room. He was slapping knuckles with the kid next to him. Ari had a big grin on his face. Typical. I saw Melody in the front row. She was reading something on her phone. Eduardo sat 2 seats down from her. He was just staring straight ahead, waiting for class to begin. Miss Barlow stepped into the room and perched on the edge of her desk. She was wearing a long skirt and baggy sweater she always wore. She raised her little black notebook, scanned the page. Since it's class photo day, I don't want to use up time taking the roll. Just speak up if you're not here. Funny, a few kids laughed. She glanced around the room. Her eyes stopped at my empty seat. Frankie Miller, are you here? I didn't answer. If I did, it would make everyone crazy. Frankie, she repeated. Has anyone seen him? He's here, but he's invisible, Ari shouted. That got a real big laugh. It was all a big joke to him. It's a beautiful day, Miss Barlow said. We're going outside now for our class photo. The bleachers have been set up. When you get out there, the photographer will tell you how to line up. I let out a long sigh. Class photo day, and I was invisible. Everyone began to stream out the door. To my surprise, Eduardo appeared in front of me. Here, he said, I brought this for you. He held up a blue jacket and a Mets cap. What's that for? I demanded. It isn't cold outside. Put them on, Eduardo said. At least you'll be in the photo. Great, a jacket, a cap, and no face, I muttered. But you'll be there, Eduardo said, and when you come back to normal, you'll think it's funny. You'll see the jacket and cap, and you'll laugh. I hope you're right, I said. I pulled on the cap, and then the Mets jacket. They both disappeared as soon as I put them on. Nice try, I said to Eduardo. Sorry, he muttered. He turned and I followed him out the door. Ready for the worst class photo day of my life? Frankie, I told myself, don't forget to smile. Chapter 19. The bright sun was already high in the sky. Bleachers had been set up on the grass at the side of the school building. The photographer was a young man in jeans and a red plaid lumberjack jacket. He had a black wool cap pulled down on his head, a stubbly black beard, and a silver ring in one ear. His camera was set up on a tripod facing the bleachers. Tall people at the top, he was shouting. Only short people on the bottom bleacher. What about invisible people? I shouted. No one seemed to hear me. They were all eager to get into their places on the bleachers. I followed Eduardo. I knew he was heading to the top row. Why am I doing this? I asked myself. I didn't have an answer. My feelings were so mixed up. First row, everyone sit down, the photographer was shouting. Fill in the second row, everyone squeeze in. Come on, people, squeeze in tighter, don't be shy. I edged on to the top row and raised my eyes. Hey! Somehow, I'd lost Eduardo. I turned and I saw him standing at the far end of the second row. Someone bumped against me. At first, I saw a bright purple polo shirt. Then I raised my eyes and I realized I was standing next to Ari. Of course, he didn't see me. He edged sideways and bumped me again. Watch where you're going, I snapped. His eyes bulged in surprise. You're here? Yes, I am, I said. I don't want to miss class photo day. He snickered. This'll be the best photo you ever took. How funny are you? I said. Not. I decided to have some fun. We were all squeezed tight on the top bleacher. I bent my knees and jumped. I landed hard and the whole bench shook. Hey, who did that? A girl cried. I saw a guy at the end of the bench almost fall off. He stumbled to the side, bumping the kid next to him. I jumped again. The bench bobbed again, down, then up. Kids screamed in surprise. Their hands flew up as they struggled to keep their balance. I jumped up and down. Earthquake! I shouted. Arms flailing, kids tumbling off the sides of the top bench, screams all around. Ari fell into the kids in front of him. They all hit the grass in a pile of arms and legs. The invisible boy strikes again, I thought. Kids were groaning and uttering confused cries. They scrambled to their feet. They shook their heads as they wiped grass stains off their clothes. Miss Barlow came trotting over. Is everyone okay? What happened? She cried in a panic. Ari knocked us over, Marla Stoltz said. She kept rubbing her shoulder and groaning. I didn't do it, Ari cried. It was Frankie. Miss Barlow squinted at him. Frankie Miller? Frankie jumped up and down and made us all fall off, Ari said. Ari, Frankie Miller isn't here today, the teacher said. He's absent. Can we get everyone back in place? The photographer shouted. I have the next class waiting for me. Kids started to climb back on the bleachers. Ari stayed to argue with Miss Barlow. Frankie isn't absent, he told her. He's here, only he's invisible. Miss Barlow laughed. That's a good one, Ari. Why don't you make yourself invisible and go back up to the top row? It's not a joke, Ari cried. Yes, it is, I whispered in Ari's ear. It's a hilarious joke, I laughed. The invisible boy strikes again. What do you think's going to happen next? Will Frankie ever be visible again? Or is he going to remain invisible forever? Join me next time.